is Rocky from Warp Sports / Team Avalanche. What we're doing today is we're going to do a little rundown of the basic cleaning of the WD-40 Angel. What we got here is just pretty much of a stock basic WD-40 Angel. Basic cleaning of the gun, pretty much simple. What you first want to do is clean out the exterior of the gun. Check it all out, open your breech, clean up your breech area where your hammer and ram is. Pretty simple. First thing you should do if you're cleaning your gun, you should definitely have a toolkit right here. This is what you need. You got all your necessities. You got your M3 removal tool where you need to remove your piston. You have your ram tool to adjust your ram. And last but not least, the most important thing, LPR gauge. Now what the LPR gauge does is gauges the LPR. After every time you use it, you should check that, make sure your seal didn't seat in there real good. What you do is just remove the barrel, as so, bam! Take out your volumizer, maximizer, whatever you have on the front, screw on the LPR tool, and gauge your LPR. You should want it between 80 and 100, depending on what kind of system you're running. Basic cleaning of the whole gun is pretty simple. Pretty much just probably about every 2 months, maybe drop some oil in your line, run it through your gun. That's pretty much all you need for your WD-40 Angel. What we're going over today is just a basic run through of the gun and how it operates. What you have here is a regular WD-40 Angel. Got your tank, your regulator. Your air flows from your tank up through the regulator, through the grip frame, up through the grip frame, and into your LPR chamber. Your LPR chamber works like so. You have your stock LPR. Sits right about here. The pin that goes through the bottom of your gun is what actually holds this LPR. You have your main exhaust body and your main exhaust valve in your body, which is just about like so. Now in between here it holds the air. You have your ram, which is right here, that sits in the back. Now, you pull the trigger, activates your circuit board, tells your circuit board to release your hammer. Now, when this process gets a little tricky, stay with me. Releases your hammer. Hammer flies forward, hits your exhaust valve. Exhaust valve opens, air comes up through your bolt, bam, shoots the ball. Now, as the air is in the reservoir, it also trickles to the front of the gun, where most of you have that little piston that you notice right when you take off your front cap. Now in that piston area, it holds anywhere from 80 to 100 psi worth of air. Now that air, if you notice when you open it up and you look up in the upper right corner, there's an exhaust port that goes up all the way to the back of the gun. That 80 psi to 100 psi worth of air runs your ram and your 14-way. That gives it the power to blow forward, open your exhaust valve, and in that case it opens up, opens the exhaust valve, and that lets the air through the bolt. That's pretty much the basic operation of the gun itself. Your 14-way is a little tricky. It has 14 O-rings on the valve, what we call the stem, and that's what dissipates the air to certain areas. We won't get into that because you really never have to open your 14-way out. If you get any leak through the top of your gun, usually it's the ram O-rings. What happens is you get a bad ram O-ring, and what the air does is it leaks past the ram up into your 14-way valve. Most people think my 14-way valve's leaking. They try to take that stem out, which is almost in a sense a big 3-way autococker stem, which has 14 little O-rings on it. Those O-rings are very, very fragile. People take them out. When they put them back in, they slice them, break them. You'll never get rid of the leak. I'll tell you right now, if you break your 14-way stem, whoa, a lot of money. So leave it alone. Never touch your 14-way out. You should never have to take that out. If it's leaking, more than likely, it's your O-rings on your ram. We have a couple upgrades, which is your milled up LPR and your milled up main exhaust body. This is what the stock one looks like. It's just a flat-faced LPR body. Milled, stock. These are the LPRs themselves. milled, stock. Now what we do on the milled ones, we mill up around the body, we move the O-ring down just to give it more volume of air in the reservoir chamber. Simple, simple, simple stuff right here. Double triggers, really simple. Your stock trigger, it's right here. You have a one adjustment. What you have is a grub screw coming down through here. When you adjust your grub screw, it cants your trigger back, which brings it closer to the micro switch, which is all fine, works well, but you still get the backup slack. On the new triggers, you have two adjustments. You have your standard grub screw, and you have also one on the top. And what that does is it adjusts your back travel. So you could get your trigger pull down to 0.05 millimeters of a pull, which is calculates into nothing. We have various amount of different triggers. We have the O trigger, which is the new ring trigger, which has, if I can get this on here, a little ring to put your finger through, so you constantly have a grip of your trigger for bunkering purposes or anything like that. What the trigger does is all it pretty much does, it leans up against the micro switch. This is pretty much your central control of your gun beside your circuit board. You want to make sure your trigger pull is adjusted correctly. Basic troubleshooting, real simple. Most problems we have with Angel users are inconsistency in velocity. That could be caused by numerous of things. First thing that you should check every now and then is your RAM. Now what your RAM does is every now and then you will get your hammer, which is this part right here, will back off your ramrod. Now what that does is causes a loose hammer. So every time your hammer slings forward, it's actually turning as it goes forward, and it's hitting your exhaust valve at a different point every time you pull the trigger. So you'll get a different flow of airflow through your hammer each time you shoot the gun. That's the most common problem. Another problem could be your LPR is not set correctly. You got to remember you want your LPR set between 80 to about 100 PSI to work properly. If it's lower or higher, you could have velocity fluctuations, which is not good. Another problem you could have is the snap ring, which is this part right here. Now the snap ring, what it does is it controls the pressure buildup in your RAM. If your snap ring's set too low, you won't get enough pressure buildup in your RAM to sling it forward and hit your exhaust valve. If it's too high, it'll beat the hell out of this exhaust valve, and that will cause another problem that we'll get into later. But what you want to do is you want to turn this snap ring clockwise till your gun does not shoot anymore. All you'll hear is a little click noise. It'll be like click, click, click. That's where you want it. Now from there, turn it about a quarter to a half a turn back. Your gun should shoot fine, and it should be at the correct pressure setting. Now, what I was discussing earlier, if your RAM is set too high, it will beat the hell out of this exhaust valve. And what it does, it wears a little ridge in the stem. And now that ridge, every time it opens up from your main body, it will catch. And that will leave it opening a little bit too long, and you'll get different fluctuations in your gas flow to your hammer. So what you need to do is every now and then check your exhaust valve also. I'd say check it every 2 to 4 months, check your exhaust valve. Main body, you rarely ever have to check your main body. When you do, what you want to do is check the innards where your exhaust valve actually goes through it. Sometimes it gets worn out, and that'll cause spurts or leaks through your little hole. Now the easiest way to check that you have a bad exhaust valve or bad exhaust main body is when you open up your breech, check if you're getting a leak through your porthole right here. If you're having a leak through there, more than likely it is your exhaust valve or your main exhaust valve body. LPRs. Now this is the tricky one that always gets people. Everybody that calls me always asks me, Rocco, I'm getting this leak through my pin here. More than likely, when you're getting a leak through your pin, it could be 3 things. It could be your LPR set too low, which is not sealing this seal. It could be too high, which is bypassing the seal. Or, normal common thing, your seal is cut. So what you want to do is check your LPR seal every now and then. make sure you didn't cut it. Now when I mean check it, most people pull it out, look at it, oh yeah, it's fine. Not good enough. What you need to do is when you pull your LPR out of the gun, you need to actually take it off the body itself. Because as you pull it out, there might be a cut on it, and you're pulling it out. And what happens is when you pull it out, that cut will roll. As you're pulling the LPR out, it actually rolls the O-ring. And then when you pull it out, you'll say, hey, it looks fine. Actually, the cut on the O-ring is on the underside. So when you take that out, take the O-ring out, take an extra 2 minutes and check it out. You'll be happy with the outcome. Hammer. Hammer's real easy. Backs off the ramrod, like discussed earlier. Just check that. If that happens, throw a little Loctite on there. 1, 2, 3, bam, good to go. Just screw it back on. Bolt. Now the bolts. Now this rarely ever happens. So you might. The only way to double check your bolts is if you have another bolt. Sometimes, if your gun's not set up correctly, your bolt pin will actually sink down into the dowel ring. And what that causes is your bolt to slip off your hammer, which gives you skipped shots, sometimes ball breakage. So what you want to do is pretty much, if you have another bolt, just size it up next to your bolt pin, make sure your bolt pin actually hasn't, sunk itself down the dowel ring. Last but not least would be your ball detent. Ball detent's real simple. All you gotta do is pretty much unscrew it, make sure that little plastic ball hasn't worked its way out. What happens is sometimes after continuous use, that little plastic ball inside your ball detent wears a ring, and it slowly but surely works its way out of your actual casing. And that also causes ball breakage, ball choppage, because it's not either letting the ball fall down in the breech or it's stopping the ball before it actually exits your muzzle area. Now we'll get into the micro switch area. Every now and then people will manually adjust their own trigger, which is not a bad thing, but sometimes they'll adjust the trigger too close to the micro switch. And what that does is it allows the trigger itself to lean up against the micro switch, as so. Now, you won't be able to shoot the gun. The gun will turn on, you'll pull the trigger, but it's already leaning against the micro switch. The way to detect that is turn your gun off and then turn it on. When you turn it back on, if you see your LED light in the back flash or you hear your 14-way click, that means pretty much your trigger is leaning up against your micro switch. So you kind of want to, don't get too close to the micro switch, because what happens sometimes is your grub screw will back itself out, especially after continuous use or fireage. What you want to make sure is you Loctite that grub screw down really good so it doesn't back its way out, doesn't move against the micro switch. Boards. Boards are simple. It's either bad or good. There's no real way of testing the boards out. What you should always do is always have a spare board. If you already haven't had your board upgraded to the new heat resistor chips, I suggest you do that. It's like a $10 charge. We put new heat resistor chips on your board. Takes care of all your problems. Let's see, what else do we need to go through? 14-way leakage, what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes people take the ram out to check their hammer. Fine, not a problem. The gun has such tight tolerances. What you want to do is you want to make sure, first of all, that you have a variety of extra O-rings to go with your ram. Because more than likely, if you're new at this, when you take your stuff out or put it back in, you're going to chop or slice an O-ring or two. So what most people do, they'll take their whole ram assembly out. Bam, they'll take it out, everything's good to go, their hammer's on, they're real nice, great, that's nice. When they put it back in, they'll end up chopping an O-ring. Chop it up, put your ram back in there, air it up, you're gonna hear a hissing sound through your 14-way. Don't get alarmed, not a big deal. What happened is, more than likely you chopped the O-ring on your ram when you put it back in your casing, and what it's doing is just bypassing the ram, going up through the 14-way and just leaking out of the top. Just take your ram back out, change or check all the O-rings, change the ones that you visually see. I'd say just change them all. And that's pretty much it on the basic troubleshooting. Anything more detailed than that, I'd say go find out your authorized dealer in the area, or if you're real smart, you send it to Warp Sports. But it's pretty much simple. I mean, go through your gun. Like I said, make sure you have a toolkit. It's a necessity. You can't do nothing without this toolkit. You can, but it's going to be hell on you and your mind. All right, what we're going over now are the basic upgrades to the Angel. Now, out of the box, Angel is a tournament-ready gun. Don't get anything wrong with that. You get a gun, out of the box, it's ready to rip. But of course, people like to milk it for all it's worth. Now, there's various upgrades you can do to your gun. First thing is, of course, is the barrel. A lot of people like to get aftermarket barrels. Dye, OTP, J&J, Smart Parts all make a quality barrel. I suggest getting one with full porting. After the barrel, I'd say most people like to go to a double finger trigger shoe. Now, like I stated earlier, there's various double finger trigger shoes you can get. You get the regular 2-adjustment double finger trigger, which has the 2 adjustments. It's got the 1 grub screw out the bottom and the 1 off the top. Adjust your back and forward trigger pull. And you have the new one, new rings. Now what the ring does is just allows your finger to set in your trigger throughout your whole game. It's good for bunkering, snap shooting. When everything counts, you want to keep your finger happy. The ring's the way to go. Volumizer, maximizers. Good insurance policy. What it does is it gives you more volume in your front piston area, which operates your 14-way and your ram. It just makes sure your 14-way and your ram are crisp all the time, never starve for any air. Usually I suggest people get that later end of your mod. It's not a necessity, like I said, it's more of an insurance policy. Another mod that we do is the lowrider feed adapter. And what this does is it incorporates your elbow and your feed tube all in one unit. It lowers your hopper down about an inch, inch and a half, depending on what you're using. Really good. People say that they have trouble with ball breaks and stackage. Shouldn't be a problem. If your gun's tuned and dialed in right, you should have no problem with your lowrider. Another one that we have is the American Vertical Assembly, which is so. Now it's tap for a gauge, so you can run a gauge so you can monitor what you're running into your Angel at all times, and it allows you to use American regulators, i.e. the Air America, which is what I suggest if you're going to run on there. Palmer Stabilizer is also a good one, and other manufacturers make regulators. American regulator won't screw into the stock one. Simple fact, it's tap for metric English stuff. Since we're American, we don't use that stuff. So what you will need is the American Vertical. Takes the place, all you do is Loctite the flash stem, which is this. Loctite it right in there. Just exchange your O-rings from your stock one onto the stem. On the bottom of the vertical, just slide it on in. Screw your regulator on there, you're good to go. Another thing I tell people that they're going to need all the time is the parts kit. Can't live without it. You need a parts kit if you're going to want to work on your own gun. You want to make sure you have, a plethora of extra O-rings. You don't want to be taking your gun apart and fix it and then slice an O-ring and bam, you don't have an O-ring. NG, no good. Make sure you have a spares parts kits. Mods, also other mods, are, like I was stating earlier, is the lower LPR and main exhaust body. What this does is it takes place of your stock one and just gives you more volume of air in your LPR chamber, which will lower your operating pressure of the gun. There are certain mods out that some people are offering where they'll drill out your grip frame. What they do is they drill out the bottom of your grip frame, they drill out your upping porthole, and they also drill out your exhaust porthole. And that'll give you, like I said earlier, a bigger chamber of air to lower your operating pressure. Those people that do that, you'll have to send it to them. It's pretty much an authorized dealer mod only. If you do it yourself, you're going to avoid your warranty, so make sure you don't do any of those high-tech mods yourself because you don't want to avoid your warranty. As for other mods go, trigger jobs, 8-shot zip board. This is a new board WDP came out with. It has full, semi, 3-round burst, and 8-shot zip all on one board. Can't live without it. Good board. What else? As mods go, that's pretty much it. There's other bolts you could go with. There's the Cobra bolt made by Cobra Paintball out in California. Guy's named Chris. Great guy. One of the nicest guys I know. Give him a call. I wish I had his number on hand. I do not. Give him a call. He custom makes your bolt to your gun. You'd have to send your gun in, and he custom makes the bolt to your breech. So it's not just a drop-in thing. You do have to send your gun to him, but the time is worth the wait. You'll have a great bolt. It seals off great. It'll probably pick up your velocity a good 30 feet per second just by changing his bolt. Other than that, pretty much all you have to do is keep your gun timed correctly, keep your dwell set right, make sure everything's tuned properly together, work in unison. You should be good to go with your Angel. Shouldn't have any problems. If you do, like I said, contact your nearest authorized dealer and they'll be more than happy to help you out. And that's pretty much it for the Rockman. So if you guys have any questions, give Warp Sports a call, 888-235-9277, or any authorized dealer. Peace. I'm out. All right, this is the Diggy Dog Rocco tip of the day. This is a little tip I learned from a good friend that works at Warp Sports. Stock trigger. You want to get the both grub screw mod, but you don't want to change to double trigger. Simple way to do it. Adjust your regular grub screw down. Take a stem from the WD-40 can, the little red nozzle. Cut that to fit. Slide it right down in here where your spring goes. And what that will do, it will pick up your back slap. And you might have to cut it a couple times to fit your gun. Easy mod, takes maybe about 5 minutes, and you won't have to go out and buy yourself a whole new trigger. So that's my little bonus tip of the day, so keep it on the down low. Peace.